Hi guys, welcome back to GP Reactions. I hope you're well, hope you're having a great day, and as always, thanks to everybody that's subscribed to this channel. So I'm now going to be listening to a track that I've never heard. It's called Sellout. It's by a singer, band, or a collection of artists called Malcolm X. I'm not sure which. So yeah, really interesting to listen to this one. This was released in November 1983. And it reached number 60 in the UK, first top 100. So okay, I'm just reading that a magazine's Face and the NME UK had this as record of the week and in their singles of the year. So it sounds quite promising. It was recorded in New Jersey and it features the skills of the musicians Reggie Griffin, Keith LeBlanc, and a bass, rhythm, mini moog, drumulator. So I'm guessing we're not going to hear real drums on this. Also features the voice of Malcolm X. That's interesting. And I didn't really know too much about Malcolm X anyway, so I just kind of quickly got a one sentence up on description up on his name. And actually, I do remember years and years ago watching I can't think if it was a documentary or it was a drama about Martin Luther King, and I think the character, Malcolm X, the person actually came up a couple of times. So basically, it's a really sort of simple understanding. Malcolm X was African American Muslim. He was under surveillance from the FBI, and sadly, he was eventually assassinated in 1965 at the age of 40. I don't know what he actually stood for politically wise. And yeah, obviously, if he was a political character, then there may be a few comments at the end, I'm guessing, about his political allegiance. So if anyone knows the history of that, then I'm willing to listen and take that on board. But please keep those comments respectful, as I don't really want to bring my channel into disrepute about anything. Because quite clearly from the little bit I've read about him, he's quite a divisive character, I guess. Divisive person, but that's all I know about him, and the fact that I've heard him or seen him in either a movie or documentary about Martin Luther King. So without further ado, enough rabbiting, I'm going to click play and see exactly what this song's about. I think it's just simply an audio version. Drum machine.
Distinguished guests, brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, friends and enemies. Malcolm X.
No sellout.
Malcolm X.
No sellout.
Malcolm X.
No sellout.
Malcolm X.
No sellout.
White, black, brown, red, yellow. Doesn't make any difference what color you are.
Loving that bass.
The only thing power respects is power. They take one little word out of what you say, ignore all the rest, then begin to magnify it all over the world to make you look like what you actually are.
Much of what I say.
So just to pause it here, I mean, just right there, to take one little word out of what you say, magnify it around. And as anybody who's ever been, I don't know, in my personal life, I get that a lot. You know, it's always just that one thing you said is magnified, not the rest of the stuff you talk about. And for absolutely 100% with the media, never judge by the headlines. I see a lot of people judging and commenting on the headlines of a story without actually reading what it's about. And yeah, mainstream media's a bit of a bugger for doing that.
Magnify it all over the world to make you look like what you actually are.
Much of what I say might sound like it's stirring up trouble, but it's the truth. 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 It's the truth.
drum beat, even if it is electronic.
Malcolm X.
Some heavy bass solos.
Malcolm X.
No sellout.
Malcolm X.
No sellout.
Malcolm X.
No sellout.
I'm not the kind of person who come here to say what you like. I got a plate in front of me, but nothing is on it. Because all of us are sitting at the same table, are all of us diners? I'm not a diner until you let me dine. Then I become a diner. I was in a house last night that was by on my own. It isn't something that made me lose confidence in what I'm doing. Brothers and sisters, friends, and I see some enemies.
Brothers and sisters, friends, and I see some enemies. I guess that was alluding to the FBI. Maybe there was people there just out to spy on Malcolm X. This was a really powerful record. I loved the excerpts of speech from him, and but you know what? Even without any lyrics at all to this, even without any of overlaying of the speech and stuff, this was a hell of a groove, There's like a really heavy bass all the way through that, and this was really funky. But yeah, it was really interesting to listen to this, and you can feel the passion in the man's voice. Like I said, I don't know too much about what exactly he was talking about. Yeah, funnily enough, I do remember actually a quote from years and years ago. Again, I'm not sure where this came from, and it was definitely Malcolm X. And it was something about whenever he went into a restaurant, he'd always sit with his back to a wall. I suppose he was aware of the threat to his life. And yeah, but I still don't know about his exact politics, as I said. There was elements of a song in it where he's talking about segregation. Yeah, so I mean, he did sound really passionate about what he was trying to get across, and also sort of persuasive in issues of language. And some of the language used is fantastic. I mean, brothers and sisters, and I see some enemies, and just amazing. So I'm just going to have a quick look at the lyrics. I mean, I spoke a bit about the music. I thought that was just great. It's fabulous groove and really funky. But yeah, it's really interesting, some of the things he was saying. Distinguished guests, brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, friends and enemies. Now, I missed that bit. That was generally at the start. Malcolm X, no sellout. White, black, brown. White, black, red, brown, yellow. It doesn't make any difference what colour you are. The only thing that power respects is power. Yeah, that's very true. Take one little word out of what you say, ignore all the rest, then begin to magnify it all over the world to make you look like what you actually aren't. And that's the power of propaganda. We have that today. We do tend to demonize certain people based on maybe one or two words they said, and the press love to hand these people. And it's not always the truth. It's nowhere near the truth of what they're about. What I say might sound like I'm stirring up trouble, but it's the truth. It's the truth. We don't care who likes it or not, as long as we know it's the truth. No, we we need either this or that, this or that. If you're wrong, you're wrong. If you're right, you're right. There'll be, I mean, but then history doesn't really allow us to get the real truth about what's right and wrong. History will. I'm sure there's a quote from someone that said history is generally written by the victors. There will be no skullduggery, no flim-flam, no compromise, no sellout, no controlled show. You can't deny that. You might not like me saying it, but you can't deny it. If you're afraid to tell the truth, why you don't even deserve freedom. Yeah, I mean, I guess if you know or you're convinced 100% something that to be true, and you're not willing to stand up for your rights, or you're willing to not speak out, then I guess that is that, you're being apathetic. You're allowing to be yourself to be railroaded by powers that be, and yeah, it's probably something that's got me into trouble a lot over my time. But you're telling the truth. Um, People don't like it, and especially if it ruffles a few feathers of people more powerful than you. And also I've learned over time that there's a good time to tell the truth, and then there's a time to sit on that truth and dish it out. Dish it out. It's like, well, it's a dish best served cold, isn't it? Sometimes it's a bit like revenge. People don't like to hear the truth at inopportune times. But you have to kind of wait until you've got a bit of power to actually serve that truth upon people or situations. You can't say that you're not going to have an explosion and you leave the condition. As long as those explosive ingredients remain there, you're going to have a potential for explosion on your hands. Yeah, I mean, that's true. I think I look at a lot of politics, obviously in the UK, and there's lots of massive, huge problems that we have at the moment. We've got climate change, we've got poverty, we have logistical problems, transport, we have the problems of phasing out gas, which I've heard is going to be phased out by 2032, and also the problems of phasing out petrol and diesel cars. And yet, I think the conditions for how people live, they're not being addressed. It's just this kind of, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. And also the conditions within society that create poverty. We're really heading for a big explosion, I believe, in the UK, and it's exactly, I think, what Malcolm X is saying. If you don't change, you can veneer over the surface of something, but you can veneer over an apple, but if it's rotten inside, it's going to remain rotten. And I don't mean that society is rotten. I just think that the situation that we're having to live through at the moment in the UK is kind of pretty rotten, and if you don't actually deal with the root causes of that head on, then it's going to remain the same. And I think, this time in next summer there'll be I believe there's going to be a lot of civil unrest in the UK, and and I believe it's because things aren't being addressed. And I come from no real political persuasion. I want to live in a world where politicians don't bullshit me. I want to live in a world where a politician answers a question directly, not that they try to then compare and contrast with a situation that they haven't been asked about. And listening to the song, it brings out a lot of frustrations within me about things that are happening. even though this was essentially, I think this was probably about the 1960s. You know, he was assassinated in 1965, so that was the height of the civil rights movements and stuff. And yeah, I mean, was there any prophetic words in his speech? Or did he predict what was going to happen? Probably, because there's still you know, all of the issues in America still remain, and yeah, power won't allow for unity. They allow for fear and etc etc. And that's how they control people. I'm guessing. You know, these issues are, you know, many countries, these issues are real issues, and yeah, it was. But the song itself, I really loved it, and the lyrics I felt were really complemented by the heavy bass, the frantic drum beats, the electric drums. I'm not sure what it was. It's I think it's called an EMU drumulator. But it was a really cool sound. I love the little guitars coming in as well every now and again. It felt like it had a lot of levels, this song did. So yeah, let me know what you think. Join me in the comments below, and have a great super day and week.